Morning in Sunday school, we had a lesson about about the end of the world. It was about Jesus coming back, and he's telling his disciples. They asked him, when was all this going to happen? He's explaining to them, nobody knows. I don't even know the day and the hour that this is going to happen. Our Sunday school stopped in verse 44. I would like to pick up in that, verse 45. And carry on with this, like the song that Maggie just led us in. Do you believe Jesus is coming soon? I hadn't changed the sign in a long time. I just took 3 letters off of it because instead of saying Christmas is coming, Christ is coming is more appropriate because it's going to happen. When? It's imminent. That means it could take place anytime. In the book of Matthew, chapter 24, starting in verse 45, titled "The Match of War," says, "Who then is faithful servant?" What? Describing to his disciples here, thing that he told them about how there would be signs, and how nobody is going to pass away from that generation. A whole bunch of confusing sounding stuff, right? Nobody is going to escape this age until the last one gets saved that's supposed to. Okay? That's what he means by this generation. Not one will pass away from this generation. Everybody that's supposed to be saved is going to get saved, and then the return of Jesus. So when can that take place? When can that happen? That one event. Somebody's got to be the last soul to get saved, the last one to accept salvation, that Jesus came down here and bought for us. He gave himself on the cross. He became that sacrifice, that death that had to happen to pay for sin. He did it. He came and he did it. And he did it for all of us. So if you sin, Jesus paid for your sin. If you sin, he paid for your sin. Actually, we're called whosoever. Right? So whosoever would believe in him will not perish, but you'll get to live forever with him. That's a good deal, right? So what he's telling us right here in this passage of Scripture, Jesus is looking at his followers, his believers, and he's looking at them. It's like, who is faithful? If you took stock of your spiritualness today, are you faithful? Would you be considered faithful? Would you consider yourself faithful? Now, what he means is faithful to God, okay? And a faithful servant is somebody that works for a master. Now, this master of one is something that has been plaguing creation since the very beginning. Since God made stuff, the stuff has been wanting to be the most important stuff. More important than the Creator. First angels he made. The most beautiful angel was like, hey, I'm just as good as this guy. I think I want his chair. I want his job. I want his title. And instead of submitting to the master, old Lucifer decided to revolt against the master and brought down a whole bunch of angels with him, these fallen angels that inhabit the earth now, and this is their domain. And you know all that stuff that keeps moving in your house, making that racket? It's demons. Just let you know, they're everywhere. They're hawking. You know what I mean? They're making little dolls stand up walking. Yeah, they made a movie about it. Did you know it? Oh, yeah. Her name was Annabella or something like that. Head spun around and everything, man. It's true stuff. True stuff. Have you ever heard something that made you stop and think, like, wait a minute. A wise servant is different than a faithful servant. A wise servant has been through some stuff, and they have learned from experience what the best decision should be. A wise servant is somebody that has been through the wars, and they have learned what the master likes, what the master wants, what the master expects. So a wise servant doesn't have to be taught the same lesson over and over and over again. Listen to me, church. A wise servant knows what the Father wants, what the master wants. A wise servant is one that submits to what the master wants. So what he's looking for, what Jesus is looking for at the end times for the church, he wants us to be wise and faithful servants. How can you be a servant if you are trying to be the master? That's the hard part, right? Look, ladies, I can't speak for y'all because I ain't been one yet. Or never, whatever. Why not put you up on that? Anyway, but I can tell you this. As guys, we seem to like have it in us to want to lead or be the masters or be the leaders of the home or whatever, okay? And we have to fight against that. How do you become a good leader and a servant at the same time? That's where wisdom comes in. Knowing how to do something, when to do something, and the best way to do something. What is God expecting from you? He expects you to believe and submit. Let me tell you about something that happened in January the 3rd, 1993. Hold up, 32 years ago. You understand? 93 was 32 years ago. On that day, Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers jumped out to a 5-3 lead over the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, New York. Cold in January. You understand what I'm saying? It was like they come out for halftime and Houston goes right down the field and scores. They take this 35-3 lead. Everybody in the stands starts leaving. They start leaving because there's no way that there's ever going to be a comeback like this, right? They were down by 32 points 32 years ago. Their quarterback, this guy from Miami, Jim Kelly, he's hurt. They got a backup quarterback named Frank Wright. Y'all heard of him? Yeah, Hall of Fame guy, right? They just start scoring. In something minutes, they scored 27 points. They tied the game up at the end of it and went to overtime and won the game with only like a quarter of the fans in the stand. They all got up and left and missed the greatest comeback in the history of the NFL. Why? Because they were not faithful. They'd never seen something like that, so they didn't think it could happen. You ever seen a rapture take place? You ever seen Jesus come in the air? It's going to happen. Somebody's going to see it. The faithful and wise servant is ready. Let me get back into this scripture right here. Who is faithful and wise? Who is going to give out the food at the proper time? This food here, it's not bread. You understand, like Wonder Bread? It's bread like the body of Jesus Christ, giving out the food that will supply eternal life. All right? So who's going to give it out? Who is being put in charge of giving out the bread of the Lord? Who gives it out? The church does, right? The faithful and wise servant does. The faithful and wise servant of Jesus Christ is ready for him to come back. They are talking about it, and they are living their lives as though he could come back any day now. Could today be the day? Did you get up this morning to think today could be the last day that we ever are here on the planet in this age? Today could be the day. You know that? Did you know that? Did you know? Today could be We had a question in our Sunday school book that said, if you knew Jesus was coming tomorrow, what would you do different today? Probably a lot, right? So we don't know if he is coming, right? Check this out. He said he don't even know the day and the hour. So he goes on, he says in verse 46, it will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. That means being a wise, faithful servant, taking care of feeding everybody bread. That's what we're supposed to do. So it says that it would be good for that servant when the master comes back and finds him doing what he's supposed to do. How many of y'all, when y'all was kids, your mom and daddy told you to do something, and then they left? And the expectation was, when I get back, this better be done. Okay? It could have been laundry, it could have been dishes, it could have been cutting the grass. Y'all knew what the consequences were for not doing it, right? You usually got whipped. You got punished when you didn't do what was expected out of you. The very easy way to stay in good graces with the master was to just do what was expected, to do what you were told, right? We knew this. We knew it every time, didn't we? Every time we knew if we would just do what we were supposed to do, everything would be fine. And that means we always did the right thing. Yeah? Come on, testify, church. Every single time. It was an easy decision, wasn't it? You get to do the thing right, you get hit. We always picked the right way, didn't we? Moron, what we act like, right? I'm serious. I look back on my childhood and I'm like, what was wrong with me? What was really wrong? It was like I wanted to get in trouble. It was like, you telling me that I can make one of these decisions bad? Okay. You mean that's going to make my daddy even more evil? Oh, it was almost like there was a demon running my show. I was not yet faithful or wise. I was living in ignorance. I did not know the Lord when I was a kid. I was still the influence of Satan and making the poor decisions. But now every decision is right. And if we're old, we don't make those bad decisions no more, do we? Because now when you get whipped, you wind up in the hospital, right? Yeah, you wind up with surgery and stuff like that, or at the funeral home or something, right? Can't be fooling around when you get old. Rainey, it would be good for that servant if the master comes back and finds them doing what they're supposed to do. It says in verse 47, I tell you the truth, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. Now, what Jesus is referring to here is the coming kingdom where the king finally sits on the throne. And what Jesus is going to do when he sets up his kingdom for 1,000 years on the earth's still been judged, okay? What he's going to do is put you, my Christian friend, in charge of stuff. You're going to be in charge of stuff. Yeah. And you know how much he's going to give you to be in charge of? Well, it kind of depends on how good you've been in charge of stuff now. That's the way it works. This is kind of like an audition in servanthood. Some people get to be the butler, going around stabbing black feet with a poker. Some people get to be that guy. Some people, right? Wasn't that in Mr. Dean? Remember he had a sneaky butler. He was very sneaky. Y'all don't remember that? Y'all don't be watching these free movies on TV. Okay. People get the good butlers. Some people don't. That's all I'm saying. That's all I was trying to say. If God can trust you with a little now, he knows he can trust you with a lot later. And it's not a job, it is a privilege. Verse 47, verse 48, it says, but suppose that servant is wicked. Oh, snap. A wicked Christian? Is that a thing? Can you be a wicked servant of the Lord? Well, I guess you can look like a servant and be in the master's house. But suppose that servant's wicked and he says to himself, my master's staying away a long time. Then he begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunks. Master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, or at an hour he's not aware of. And then he's going to cut him up into pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's hell. So this took a turn. This went from the Lord is coming. We know this, okay? And we're ready for this, right? We're ready for this day to take place. But there are members of the congregation, of the church, that is like, it's been so long. The preachers have been saying that forever. They've been talking about Jesus coming back, Jesus coming back. I'm not worried about it. Or, I remember when I was young, I would scoff at Jesus coming back because I wanted to grow up. I wanted to see some stuff, do some things. So I would scoff at the idea of Jesus coming back. You know why? You know why I scoffed when I was young? Because I didn't want to submit and be a good servant. Straight up, bro. That's what it was. Being a teenager, you think you want to just, do a pledge or something and like everybody's watching you, making sure you don't sin? Yeah, that's what God is. And ain't a dirt road on Coushatta where you can hide from it. We be hiding out. Somebody's like, what's he know? I used to try, all right? You ever fixed a hole in your oil pan in an 85 Nissan Pulsar with a screw and some Permatex? Yeah, somewhere you shouldn't be. That's right. Everybody in the world can ride down the ridge road. I guarantee you, if you ain't supposed to be on the ridge road, you're going to hit a rock. That's how it works, right? Oh, yeah. Anyway, hold on myself. She was with me. Well, that don't make it any better, does it? Oh, well. Probably not being a faithful and wise servant at that time. All right, let me preach for a minute. When we are our own master, God said that you cannot serve two masters at one time, right? So if we try to be our own master, run our own, go according to our own will, we are going to get what we deserve. We are going to be excluded because we're not being good servants, and we're going to be cut off at the end of it all. Do you realize that Billy Graham said about 50 years ago, back in the 70s, Billy Graham said that the largest mission field in America today is the local church field. That's where you will find the most lost people. That's a bold statement for Billy Graham to make back then, because in the 70s, churches were still full, wasn't they? He was getting stadiums packed. People come in and hear about the gospel of Jesus. And he knew that every single person wanted God, but he also knew that hardly any of them were surrendered. Can you look back on your life and see when you were and were not following God? The were not following God should have taken place before, and something's changed. And since then, how has it been? Used to be before we get in shape, before we do certain things, we gotta get ready for that stuff. We gotta work out, right? So, like in the off season, when y'all are getting ready for football, if you showed up in August and you have not practiced, lifted weights, run, or anything, and you show up in August and be like, yeah, I want to be the quarterback, they're going to laugh at you. You're not ready for that assignment yet. Understand? You've got to put some training in. You've got to do some learning, some studying, some preparation for that. How do you think Frank Wright led the Buffalo Bills back against the Houston Oilers? Because he was a scrub? He was an NFL quarterback. He believed he could do it. The team believed they could do it. So they did. You don't got to get ready if you stay ready, right? Today, let today be the day. From now on today, I'm going to be a now on today, from now on, I'm going to be in God. Every single day, I'm going to make sure that God is my master, and I'm not trying to take his job. From now on, what's going to happen is until Jesus comes, I'm going to be ready for him to come. Every single day. I want to wake up and think that thought. Today could be the day. It ain't going to do nothing but make you happy, make you smile, and make you change. Comeback is going to happen. Jesus is going to come back. And it's going to be the greatest comeback the world has ever seen. There are people in jail today because they believe in him. There are people that are being murdered today because they believe in him. And they got the courage to say, I believe in Jesus. And they're like, you renounce Jesus or I will shoot you. And they're like, you ain't bigger than my Jesus. And they'll eat that bullet and they'll go on to heaven to be with him. And it will eternally be worth it. There's some real life stuff going on today. We, us, can be just like these servants that are like, well, he's been waiting so long, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. And let our guard down. And never feed bread to anyone. I don't think that's the way the story should end. Church, I don't think that's the way the story should end when people go into hell. Have you been saved? If your heart stopped today, where's your soul going? You know? I remember when I used to sit in the pew, and I remember before I was right with the Lord at how I felt. I remember that. And I pray every week, God, don't ever let me forget how that felt, that lostness sitting in the pew. You want to hide. You want to just hurry up and shut up, preacher, so I can get out of here. Yeah. Let me just get this hymn over with. Maybe we won't sing but like 2 verses, just as I am, and get on out of here, right? I remember those days. Came over here this morning to turn the heat on, and I tried my best to think about all of y'all, where you sit, where you are. And I was praying this morning. I pray Wyatt has this the most awesome feeling in worship today. You know what I mean? I'm like just like fired up, you know. It's like it's halftime, bro. The comeback's happening. You know what I mean? Jesus is coming back. And you know what I'm talking about. You know, because you've just been playing football and you get all riled up, headbutting and stuff, right? That's how I'm thinking about Jesus, though. He's coming back. You ready? Are you ready? I don't want to headbutt you right now. He's coming back. You know what I mean? We should be fired up about that. He's coming back. Could it be today? Yes, it could be today. What if it was? If there's somebody you know that ain't ready, go tell them. Just go tell them, I love you. Jesus loves you. If you come back today, are you ready? That's feeding the bread. And that's what we're supposed to do every day. So let's all stand. If there's something you need to change today, something that you need to pray about, put the past. Take the day to do so.